Okay, cool. So this little drill is going to be very similar to what we just started. So when I start to work a dog, I try to start easy and I make it more challenging and more challenging and more challenging. If you start with something that's super challenging immediately, you'll start to run into failure immediately, and then it kind of sets the tone for your whole training. That you start with failure, and failure usually leads to a bit of frustration. So then you're starting out with failure and frustration, and then you kind of got to rework everything because now you started off on the wrong foot, if you will. So instead of doing that, I don't really trick myself. I just start with something easy, and then we get more challenging and more challenging. So this is going to be the same. This will be your board, and then that's going to be my board. But we'll just get them up on the board and tell them to stay. I usually take a few steps away from them, and then I'll release them. I'm going to release them by saying okay, or okay come, or Beau come. You don't necessarily have to say okay, but if you don't, you need to tell them what you want, like Beau come or come. And then I'll kind of demo it here. Come on, Beau. Oh, you just went right through them. Thought you were going to have to go all the way around, buddy. Up, sit, stay. Stay. Okay, come. He was going to cheat there for a second. But up, sit, stay. Okay, come. And then you'll call him over to your board.
Beau, come. Stay. Stop. Stay.
It's okay. Just get him back up on the board.
Up on the board. Up. Up. Okay. Stay. Okay.
Beau, come. So as we work through this, we're going to get a little further and a little further away. Beau, sit. Sometimes, so he doesn't pattern me, I'm going to go towards him and come back and give him food on the board. Stay. If he does good, no, no. Up. Sit. Stay. No. Up. Sit. Stay. Okay. Good. So it's not the end of the world if he fails. Don't let him rush you. If he fails, you just say no and get him back on the board, and then you can call him.
Beau. Up. Sit. Stay. Stay. Okay. There you go. Good boy.
Beau, come. Beau, come. Good. If he comes here, you can give him food. It doesn't all have to be with the board. Beau, come. Good. Beau, up. He was kind of looking in the sun, so I'm just going to turn him around this time. Stay. Normally, I try to walk back to Beau, so he doesn't try to creep and think that he's going to predict that I'm going to always call him off the board to get food. Stay. Okay. So kind of the reason I explain it like that is because he'll pattern you about everything you do. So I try to make things unpredictable for him. So he's listening for me to tell him what he can do. He's not just gonna be able to say, well, Dad always does things this way. I'll just do things the way I always. It's like, no, I want you to listen and pay attention to me. I don't want you to pattern me.
Okay. Sit. Up. Come here, Beau. Up. Sit. Stay.
All right. Instead of you calling him, I'm gonna go ahead and call him off. Beau, come. Good boy. The second he turned his head, he wasn't coming, but I said good boy to encourage him, and then he came the rest of the way to me. So I saw his mind work, and I said come. He looked at me. Just for him switching attention off to you and looking at me, I told him good boy, and then that encouraged him to continue that thought process. Sometimes we had to encourage the effort. Not that he did it right, but the fact that he was thinking about doing it right was enough for me to tell him he was doing a good job. then this time, when you tell him to stay, go ahead and walk that way instead of off that way. Walk this way. You can call him to come to you.
Come, Beau.
Good. Now, you did everything perfectly, but I'm just gonna kind of talk to it a little bit. Come here, Beau. Come. Come. Good. Sometimes we can kind of trick Beau with our body language a little bit. And so, say, when he sees my hand drop down, watch what happens. I didn't tell him he could get up, but he saw the release. Beau, come. Come. Good. And what I mean by that is usually what will happen is I'll say, okay, and then he sees me drop my hand every single time after I say okay. So part of it is him hearing okay, but part of it's just watching my body language. When I drop my hand, it's an indication to him that I'm inviting him to come and look what's in my hand. So you have to kind of think what the dog is seeing, also what he's hearing, but a lot of it is what he's seeing. So sometimes he'll cheat and he sees you inhale and you're about to say okay, and when you inhale, he goes, oh, I know what he's gonna say something, right? So sometimes what I'll do, sit. Before I drop my hand, I'll say sit. And you see that didn't work. I say no, up, sit, up, good, up, good, sit. Okay. And I'll just tell him what I want while I drop my hand, hoping that he listens to me and doesn't follow my hand down. I can kind of break him of some bad habits. It's not really a bad habit at all, but you got to think the dog's watching everything. He's watching you breathe, he's watching your hands move, he's watching when you turn your back, he's watching when you crouch down. He's looking for a reason to get up because he wants to get up because he doesn't want to, dogs don't want to be stationary like statues. They want to run around and have their freedom or whatever. So far we got come, sit, stay, and heel, come. Beau, come. We got him coming and sitting. This is a good pattern to have. Then we got him into a heel, sit. Then usually when I'm by his side, I turn my body and say stay. Okay. So that's come, sit, heel, stay, okay, right? The reason I turn my body on him when I have him by my side is because I'm closing off the ability for him to walk. Usually I'll just say stay and walk away, but if I find that he's breaking every time I walk, I'll say stay and then I'll walk away. Because what I'm doing is I'm closing his path to walk. Stay. Come. And this was really not important out in the field, but I do it because usually what will happen is I'll tell him to sit at the door and I open the door opening sucks him into the door. So when I open the door, I close him off and say stay, and then I walk through the door. It's not that there's any doors out here, but it's just another body language thing to help him understand what I mean. Over time, you just have to say stay. When I teach him in the kennel room, I'll say stay, he gets some food. Stay, hey, Beau, you're not paying attention, stay. I'll walk a couple steps and then I'll walk back. Stay, I'll walk 3 or 4 steps and then I'll walk back. Okay. So he sees it from a different angle. Again, nothing's right, nothing's wrong. I'm just kind of trying to put a little bit of color to everything so that you understand like what he's seeing. It's not a big trick on the dog, but we're asking a lot of them, and our training is going to get more dynamic and dynamic. So at first it's just come, sit, heel, stay, and then it's like when he's running towards us, ask him to sit and see what he does. And that doesn't mean I want him to come all the way to me and then sit. I want him to stop and sit right where he is. So later it's going to get like, well, you just tell the dog what you want. It doesn't have to necessarily be anything we've done before. He just needs to start to learn to listen. So, and it makes more sense because when you bring him in other environments, he's never been there before. So his mind's going to be like, are there any predators out here? Is there any prey out here? Am I comfortable in this environment? Should I run around and sniff everything so I can see if there's other animals around? And it's like, well, Beau, we're at a friend's house right now, and I just need you to listen to me. I know this is crazy, but I just want you to sit and stay for a second. So, you'll see other environments are a little more difficult because if he hasn't been there before, he'll be real curious or whatever. Okay, so we'll do, I'm just gonna have you, you'll just call him to come. You'll loop him around to heel. You'll tell him to stay. You'll walk 5 feet away, and then you'll tell him, okay, he can come, just like what I did.
Stay. Come. Oops.
That's okay.
You go. You go. Come here. Good boy.
Awesome.
Look here, Beau. Beau. Come around. Come here. Come here. Come around. Good. Good boy.
Very good.
Stay. Come. He was starting before I.
There you go. It's okay though. That's kind of why I was putting a little bit to it. He was doing good. He might have got impatient, or he might have seen you start to draw your hand out of the bucket.
Yeah.
You don't really know, but so I always try to trick him, just to see what he'll give me. You know, it's a big game to me. I want to see why the dog's failing, how the dog's failing. It's not really right or wrong, but it lets me understand the dog more. Like, what is he seeing? Why did he do that? You know. All right, cool. So we're gonna kind of take a little break there. All right, and then I'll go ahead and pause this just for a second, and I'll restart it in a second.